It was never meant to be a business. How could you trust a stranger ever in your own home? This was really the insight that turned everything around when we were on the verge of quitting.
Welcome to this special live edition of The Big Question from Brussels. I'm Angela Barnes. Now, on The Big Question, we dive deep into some of the biggest topics on today's business agenda. It is my great pleasure to please welcome our special guest, Nathan Plecharsik, who is the co-founder and Chief Strategy Officer at Airbnb. I would love to get started with talking about Airbnb's backstory, because of course you co-founded Airbnb in 2008. Did you expect it, first of all, to become as big as it has become now today?
In the early days, folks didn't even like the idea for the most part. They said, how could you trust a stranger ever in your own home? Well, today, fast forward, we have 9 million homes on the platform in 220 countries and territories across 150,000 different cities. More than 2.5 billion people have stayed in other people's homes. I think it's amazing how we've created the trust necessary to create this kind of exchange at global scale. And last year, for example, 92 billion was transacted on the platform, and the majority of that income went to the individuals hosting their homes.
What was your original inspiration for Airbnb?
When it began, it was never meant to be a business. I was in San Francisco with my two other roommates, and we were just trying to solve our own problem, which was how to pay the rent one weekend. You see, the rent on our apartment had just been raised 25%. And I said, that's too expensive. I'm moving out of here. The two other guys wanted to stay, but they had just quit their jobs to become entrepreneurs. So they didn't have the money to pay the rent either. But they're both designers by background, and they saw that a design conference was coming to San Francisco, and they noticed that all the hotels were sold out. And so they decided to rent out the extra bedroom in the apartment to designers who might need a place to stay that weekend. This bedroom was empty, it had no bed, so they set up an air bed. So instead of calling it a bed and breakfast, they called it an air bed and breakfast. So Airbnb is short for air bed and breakfast. And they ended up hosting 3 designers that weekend who got an affordable place to stay. Joe and Brian made enough money to pay their rent that month. And all 5 of them, I guess, went to the conference together and had a great time. And so it was really a win-win. And it was out of that we thought to ourselves, why don't we make it just as easy to book someone's home as a hotel? And we set off to do that in 2008. But it wasn't until 2009 that things changed.
Did you all just say, wow, this is becoming a really big deal now? Was that the turning point in 2009?
Well, basically, at the end of 2008, we were on the verge of quitting, and we joined an accelerator program called Y Combinator. And long story short, at the end of the 12 weeks, instead of deciding to quit, we had actually turned around the trajectory of the company, and we're successful in raising our first venture capital money.
I saw a quote from you where you said, it's better to have 100 users that love you than 1,000 users that like you. Find your evangelists and build for them. Can you just talk us through this philosophy and essentially how you followed it at Airbnb and why it's so important to you?
This was really the insight that turned everything around at the start of 2009 when we were on the verge of quitting. It was basically that you need to focus on finding what the internet and tech world is known as product market fit. But the way you do that is by focusing on finding a few people and turning them into your evangelists. The advice we got was go meet your users. So we would fly to New York and meet our users. But how do you meet your users when you're an internet company? We noticed that a lot of them didn't have very good photos of their homes. So we thought to ourselves, why don't we offer them free professional photography? So we'd call and say, would you like a professional photographer to come to your home? And people would say, well, they're a little surprised, but they say, sure. Well, knock on the door is actually my co-founders showing up to take the pictures. Well, in the home, they would also provide a tutorial on how to use the website, gather product feedback. Through that interaction, we formed a bond with these, first 50 hosts in New York. And they wanted us at that point to succeed. We had, in New York City, apartments that had great photos, great prices. And these hosts would, host somebody from Paris, let's say, they'd make $500. They would then tell their friends. So their friends would sign up. They would see the high standards on our site in terms of the photography and the effort people had put in, and they'd look to emulate that. And so that just got the flywheel spinning. And after that, it started growing.
We've seen some cities ban or place heavy restrictions on short-term rentals. How has that affected your business?
At this point, after 18 years, Airbnb is heavily regulated. If you look at our top 200 markets, 80% of them have regulation in place, oftentimes for more than a decade. And despite that, we've still had, very successful growth. Our general approach has been to partner with cities and be supportive of their desire to regulate. The trick of any regulation is finding the right balance to focus on the objective and root that in data without over-regulating in such a way that prevents, economic growth or opportunity. We've had examples of overregulation, like Amsterdam in 2019 passed regulation that resulted in 54% of the listings on Airbnb being removed. The motivation for that was housing costs, but what played out over the next 5 years, although the number of listings dropped in half, the rents increased by 1/3. And so, there was no impact by that regulation on the cost of housing. And we've started to see some cities, realize that and evolve. So for example, Edinburgh had a similar experience where they kind of over-regulated, didn't see the impact on housing prices, and then pulled back some of the regulations. Same in Lisbon.
Nathan, what do you think? What can you say to policy stakeholders about how Airbnb customers can positively contribute to local communities?
Tourism in general is a huge driver of the economy generally and local economies. In the EU, we estimate Airbnb's impact is about 149 billion euros to GDP, supporting 2.1 million jobs. Of course, if all that tourism is going to one place, that can lead to an over-concentration. But one of the special things about Airbnb is how we can disperse tourism. All these homes are not just in one neighborhood downtown, they're throughout a city and actually throughout the country. If you look at our business in Europe, 60% of the nights booked are not in cities at all. They're actually in rural areas. Many of these small towns don't even have hotels. They didn't have accommodation. They weren't able to support tourism. And now visitors can have, more local, more authentic experiences. And these small towns are eager for it.
If you were to pinpoint one of your proudest moments, what would that be, Nathan?
I think in general, what I'm most proud of is empowering people economically. But a specific moment that I'm most proud of, one of the creative ways in which we've used our platform more recently is to help displaced people during natural disasters or other times of need. When the war in Ukraine broke out, the Airbnb host community opened up their homes, along with the help of donors, to host those who were displaced. And over this subsequent, we'll say 18 months or so, the Airbnb community hosted 140,000 refugees from Ukraine in their homes around the world. So, that kind of capability just wasn't even possible in the world. There wasn't enough infrastructure, but we've crowdsourced and made a community, and in times of need, the community's really stepped up.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for joining us on The Big Question. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.